You're listening to the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast, a place for sex addicts to share their experiences of recovery, to help break the stigma, myths, and misconceptions of sex addiction. This podcast may contain topics of sexuality, sexual trauma, dysfunction, or other things that may be triggering, so listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast. My name is Jason, I'm a sex addict, and I will be your podcast host for today. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 19 of the podcast. This week, for the first time in 15 months, I had the opportunity to go back to in-person meetings. Although I was really excited to see some of my friends that I had just met this year on Zoom and some of my old friends that I haven't seen in a long time, I was unexpectedly feeling a little bit of awkwardness and anxiety. In California, we've been on lockdown basically since March of 2020. A lot of things have started opening up over the past few months, but next week, California will open up much wider. In anticipation of this, a lot of meetings are starting to prepare going back to their old meeting rooms. So I was really excited to go back, but also feeling the fear of missing out because the meetings that I am talking about in particular are the Santa Clara Noon meetings, which I have been talking a lot about on the podcast. And we've opened up the Zoom meetings to an international level. We've decided to separate the two and have the local Bay Area people go back to the Santa Clara church rather than doing a hybrid meeting where we would have people log into Zoom. We're keeping them separate. So I'm missing out on seeing a lot of the friends that I've met over the past year. But that meeting now exists 6 days a week, and on the days that I'm not going back to in-person meetings, I can always jump in on Zoom. Listening to the local news and conversations that I've heard elsewhere, they've been talking about things changing and interviewing people about their thoughts about what it's going to be like going back to normal life, quote unquote. And with the awkwardness that I felt for the first few moments of being back in a meeting, I thought this would be a relevant topic for the podcast. And so for the conversation this week, I've asked a couple of people that were at some of the meetings this week to join me in a conversation. The various podcasts I've been listening to outside of this one have also been talking about kind of the same thing. The toll that the pandemic has had on our mental health and what it's like trying to go back to normal. And for a lot of people, it's going to take a while to ease back into it. Some areas of the country have been, never really went on lockdown as hard as California. Other areas have been on lockdown, but they've opened up earlier. And so now it's our turn to actually go out and experience life again. In our conversation, we had just a wide range of emotions. Two of us, me and Tim, have been at meetings long before the shutdown. And James, who just joined us on Zoom over the past year, this was his first experience of being at an in-person meeting, and it didn't quite meet his expectations. And I will let him speak for himself in the conversation, but it did lead to anxiety and not feeling like he fit in or felt like he belonged. And in our conversation, we talked about Tradition 3. So I wanted to read a little bit about Tradition 3 from the Green Book, and this is on pages 81 and 82. So I'll read the tradition and some key lines from the text, as well as the entire last paragraph. Tradition 3, the only requirement for SAA membership is a desire to stop addictive sexual behavior. Since membership in SAA has only this single requirement, we are reminded not to focus on how we are different from others, or to imagine that only those who have acted out in a certain ways are truly sex addicts. If we can look inside and honestly say that we have a problem with any addictive sexual behavior, then the help SAA has to offer is meant for us too. This tradition opens the door to all sex addicts seeking help so that we will be welcomed in our meetings and encouraged to keep coming back. And from the last paragraph here on page 82, the third tradition is based on trust rather than fear. When we live in the spirit of this tradition, we acknowledge that we cannot stand in judgment over any of our fellows or believe any sex addict unworthy of recovery or unfit for our program. We are challenged to open our hearts and our meetings to those different from us and to seek ways to show the compassion and hope that has been given to us. The third tradition's clarity and simplicity reflects the compassion of a loving higher power who grants us freedom from addiction regardless of who we are or where we have been. Everyone with a desire to stop addictive sexual behavior is welcome here. The welcome we receive in SAA inspires us to extend the same welcome and the same message of hope to those who come after us. This is such a beautiful message. I love this tradition. A lot of people coming into program feel like they don't belong. Those feelings can be valid for a while, but as we grow in community, we see how that we're all here for each other. And so I love the inclusiveness of this tradition. So like I had mentioned, this had come up in our conversation. And as we were talking, we had differences of opinion on what things are like on Zoom, what things are like in person. And I love that we're all open to our own opinions and finding ways that SAA can help us each individually. But that's enough of me blabbing on. So I'd like to move on to our conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Here it is. Yeah, just thinking of the anxiety and stuff, one of the reasons why I wanted to record tonight was to talk about going back to face-to-face meetings. So it's been interesting here. I know next week California will be changing, opening up for the first time in forever. But as people like myself have become fully vaccinated, that a lot of meetings are starting to talk about opening up to go back to in-person meetings. And over the past week, our Santa Clara noon meetings, which we've been on Zoom since, when was it? March of 2020.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We decided to go back face-to-face for the first time last Friday, and we met again on Monday and again today. So it's been an interesting journey for me. Yeah, I wanted to share that on the podcast. I also wanted to share other people's perspectives on what it was like to go back to an in-person meeting. So today here on the podcast, we were joined by co-host Tim, who's been on a number of different episodes, and James as well. James, you joined our noon meetings, sometime over the past year in the pandemic ages, right?
Yeah, I joined in October. It was actually, the location was right by my house, but it already moved to Zoom. So I just joined in Zoom only in October. Yeah.
And Tim, we were trying to discuss, so where our noon meeting is, there's two churches that are right next to each other. And we were trying to figure out today when we started at the current church that we were at. And so you started off at the other church, right?
I did. Yes. Yes. Limited amount of people, large amount of space.
Yeah.
It was a gymnasium.
Yeah.
I recall. So yes. Those first steps could really echo. But yeah, we were there, and then we moved to a pizza parlor, and then
that was weird.
Yeah. and then we moved into the church we are now. God, I am really lousy with time. With 5 years or four?
I remember, you being around in at least 2012. So.
Oh no, I meant moving into.
Moving into the new place. Yeah, I can't remember. So we were trying to figure out how long. Do you remember how long you? Well, yeah, if you were at the old church, and then we had, like you mentioned, the pizza place. So yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So this week, I was excited that a couple people were actually talking about showing up there for the first time in forever. And our regular meeting room is still closed at this time. The church is still trying to figure out what their guidelines are in terms of coming back after the pandemic. And next week, as California opens up, they may have better ideas. So hopefully we can use our regular meeting room soon. But we've been meeting out on the back patio. So we walked through the church, and I saw a couple faces that I haven't seen in a long time, except for on a screen. We all came into the meeting with our masks on, and that's where my first bit of awkwardness was. I felt comfortable having my mask off, but also not wanting to offend other people. And as other people were joining in, they had already taken a group conscience to be with our masks off, as most of us were fully vaccinated. And so there was a bit of awkwardness of whether or not to keep the mask on or off. James, what were your thoughts on, you joined the Friday meeting after we had already started?
Yeah, it was super awkward and not what I expected. I don't want to sound negative or anything. Like, it was really cool, like meeting you in person, Jason.
Yeah.
And a few other people who I don't know if I should name. I really liked seeing everybody there, but I quickly became uncomfortable with sitting super close to other people without masks on. And I feel like that's kind of unfair to them in a way, because they're all, I guess, decided to do that or something. Like, they decided that's okay. But I hadn't done that yet since this whole thing started last year. So to me, it was not comfortable for me. Like, I was super close to other people, and so yeah.
We after that meeting, because I guess they had set up for just a couple of people. We weren't sure how many people would show. Back in the old days, these meetings would generally have about 20 to 25 people in person. And as I've mentioned on the podcast before, as we've taken these in-person meetings onto Zoom, we actually open it up to international level. And so we started gaining people from around the country and around the world, up to between 40 and 60 people. And so of those, there's still quite a good percentage that were in the Bay Area. And so, not knowing how many people would show up, they only set up a couple of chairs. And as more and more people arrived, we brought out more chairs. And instead of opening up the circle to for social distancing, we added chairs pretty close, and I could see the unease. We learned from our mistakes from Friday. So Monday and Wednesday, we were able to spread the chairs out. Tim, you joined us on Monday, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's weird. This entire year plus has been weird, right?
Yeah.
So returning to something that used to be regular for me, it was a mixed bag. On one hand, I was completely grateful to be back there, grateful for the people who showed up, and noticing that there's just a difference between in-person meetings and online. For me, I'm a person who can be very easily distracted. And so when I'm, if I have a pad of paper around me or, something around that's distracting, I'll tend to go to that. At meetings, that is largely removed from the equation. And that's great for somebody like me. I resonate a little bit more with that in-person connection and being able to, physically clap.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of those things, all of those little things that I didn't realize kind of became a factor over the past year. So I appreciate the intimacy factor. On the other hand, like everybody else, I'm still I'm a little bit gun shy about just being in social situations at the drop of a hat. We've been wading into it. I have kids, so we're friends with other families. And so we've gradually started doing more and more social things. But I think we're going to see more, as hopefully the positive trend continues, we're going to see more and more participation with people coming back. So for me, it was a really good experience. I just think it's still going to take some getting used to.
Yeah. A lot of times when, so I'm on Zoom sometimes here at my house and sometimes at work. And when I'm at my house, a lot of times I'll be on meetings and I've got things on my desk. So like right now I've got a Nerf dart.
Yeah.
And so I'll sit there and fidget with whatever I find on the desk. But being in person is a whole different thing. One of the things that I felt, another unease that I had was, we've been either looking at screens or at, sometimes people will have their video off. And so getting used to looking at someone when they're sharing was a bit weird for me, making that actual eye contact. So I'm looking at both of your eyes here on the Zoom call, but I'm looking at a screen. So when I'm looking at someone's eyes at a meeting, that is a level of intimacy that it's awesome, feeling connected, but when you're not used to that, it can be weird. So just trying to remember what that was like, for me. James, what were this is your first experience of joining us, and so you hadn't been able to have that kind of interaction with us before.
Yeah, so I mean, I was really looking forward to it. I was asking people a lot. I was asking you a lot, like, hey, when are we going to be in person? And when I heard the member who was secretary for Friday was hosting, then that first time I was like, yeah, I got to go to support him. Turned out like he didn't really need my support. Like, he's good. But anyway, like, yeah, like I was really looking forward to it. But like I had never been to an in-person meeting before, ever, period. Like that was my first in-person, like 12-step meeting. And I think I normally have anxiety. That's like normal for me, that I don't even call it anxiety anymore. It's just like my experience of life. But like,
yeah,
when I was there, it was like crippling, dude. Like I felt like I was in hell. Like I want to be real, because like this is just my experience. Obviously it's personal to me, like just what happened to me. It's not saying like you should have this experience. This is just what I experienced. So what I experienced was that I could not concentrate on anything. So like I didn't I wanted to get the fuck out of there. Wait, sorry, can I curse?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, I was like wedged in to a couple people, which like at first I was like, oh, it's cool. Like we're homies and stuff, you know, we've been talking and everything. And then like another person got wedged in, and then like I could smell someone's cologne, which kind of like freaked me out a little bit. I know it sounds like maybe weird, but like if you've ever been in it, it's like, think about it. Like we haven't really been close to people for like a year, right?
Yeah.
We've had like 6 feet for a year. Yeah. And now I'm so close that I can smell someone's body odor, and it's just kind of tripping me out, and I can't focus on what's going on. And the thing is, like, I'm stuck. I can't just like get up and move around, right? Because like if I'm on Zoom, like right now I can just like pause, you know, I can mute my microphone, I can pause my video, and I can move around if I need to. But in an in-person meeting, I was like, I'm stuck in this little like green chair or whatever, and I can't move. And everybody, like the physicality of everybody's bodies was extremely distracting to me. Like how much bigger they are in person than I expected, or how much smaller they are, or like what people look like, what shoes they're wearing, and all this kind of stuff. Like I don't have anywhere that I can look that's like not at another person. You know what I'm saying? And like the member next to me was like also looking at people, and like he was looking at my shoes, right? And I'm looking at people's shoes, and it's like freaking me out, because I'm thinking that he's trying to telepathically communicate to me that I'm too close and I need to get away from him. Like that's my interpretation of it. It turned out later I talked to him, and we're cool. We're super cool now about, but he had a totally different interpretation of that event. And he was not trying to tell me to get away. Like we're homies and stuff. So that's all good. But yeah, I mean, I was just tripping out on like multiple levels, and like the way that I'm sharing right now with you guys, I was in no way equipped to share like that at that place. Like too many factors were getting in between me being open and honest with other people and that situation. So like, for example, like one story that was going on in my head was I felt like younger than the average there a little bit. And I kind of felt like, here's like the establishment guys, like these guys are established, right? And I'm like this outsider. That's how I felt. So I didn't feel like it was my place to talk. But for whatever reason with Zoom, you know, I could come into these meetings and like, you know, with SAA, like I could just do the raise hand feature. And I don't have to be a big shot. I don't have to be like an alpha leader in the group that like is in with the in crowd. Like I have my hand raised, you have to call on me. Like you don't have a choice, but you have to call on me, right? That's my mentality. Is like I'm not an insider, so you have to call on me. You don't, because you don't have a fucking choice, right? And then I get my 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't get less time because I'm less important. I get the same amount of time as everybody else. So that's like one thing that I really like about Zoom. And I know you guys have that in person, but like my interpretation of that was like I'm not in with the cool kids. I'm not an insider. I'm an outsider. I can't talk. I'm just, you know, like I try my best to like say something, but you know, truth be told, like I did not feel like I fit in at all. Like I felt so distracted by like so many things, and just like the physical presence of different people and stuff like that. You know, with Zoom, like, let me just extol the virtues of Zoom for a moment.
Yeah, please.
All right. Just feel free to interrupt me if I'm going on too long, by the way. I don't know
No, you're good. Fine. You're fine.
Yeah. Because podcast, different etiquette, right? So with Zoom, I think people who have social anxiety or social hangups, like they feel like an outsider, they need to be, you know, with people they've known for a long time and stuff to feel comfortable. I feel like it eliminates a lot of those things, you know, and that's my experience. Like there's certain situations where I feel comfortable, and like most other situations I don't feel comfortable. So like one situation I feel comfortable in is doing jujitsu, because I've done jujitsu for like 14 years or something like that. So whenever I am on a mat, I feel like I can relate to other people there because I've just been doing it for so long. But like other situations, like I don't feel comfortable. And I think that's one thing with the 12-step group in meeting in person is there's a physicality to it, right?
Yeah.
And then when I'm in Zoom, I take away that physicality. So now I only have the talk, the ideas, like I can share with you guys, right? We are not comparing like how big we are, how small we are, like skin color or like, hair color or anything else like that. Another thing that I've heard is that, I've heard this in an AA group that I'm also attend sometimes from a female member. And she said like she would not have shared that much. Like she would not have gotten involved that much if it wasn't for Zoom. And I feel that that's the case for me. Like, I feel like I would not have done any of this stuff if it wasn't for Zoom. Like, I don't know if I would have, like, I might have like gone in the first time and then just bolted, or I might have stuck with it.
Yeah. We've had people like that. They come into the rooms, we see them, hand them some literature, talk to them, and then never see them again. And then we have other people that, I'm surprised they showed up the next week and the week after that. And next thing it's, a couple of years later. So.
Yeah. I feel like Zoom like has just helped me so much, man. Like, I feel so much more comfortable sharing from like my own space, my own house. Like I don't feel threatened by anybody. Like one of my character defects I'm working on is like fearfulness. I just get scared of people, and people can't hurt me through the screen. Yeah. Like straight up. You know what I mean? And it's like, it sounds really fucking weird, but if you have like weird, like little anxieties and stuff, that can be the difference between like sitting there quietly, like waiting for it to end, and like actually sharing and opening up and stuff.
Yeah. It was interesting today. Being at the in-person meeting, I want to get to fear of missing out because I do have that going on with the Zoom meeting. We're not doing hybrid for these, so we have the Zoom meeting is now separate from the in-person. So, but we had a couple of people that it was their first time back. They used to go to face to face, and they were saying kind of the opposite of James's experience. And I have had a handful or a bunch of people that have felt more comfortable on Zoom, and other people that felt less comfortable on Zoom, and having the need for connection of the physical variety. And so people saying that they felt distracted while they were on Zoom and couldn't focus as much as being able to sit and pay attention without other things going on. So yeah, we all have our different levels of experiences. And like I mentioned, I've been in the program 18 plus years, or thereabouts. And when James, I felt your unease, and gave you a call, and my shit was not together that first day. So I was happy to see everyone, but I also felt like I don't know what to do with my hands. I got other things going on inside my head. I've got to get back to work, and all that sort of stuff. So, Tim, you want to jump in with any ideas?
Well, no, I was just thinking it's this year opened up so many things that just weren't on anybody's radar prior, right? Like we had telemeetings, I think, right, Jason?
Oh yeah, for
you do telemeetings over the phone. But this notion of Zoom and recovery, I certainly hadn't heard about it until it was necessary. And so you've opened up kind of this whole world. And I think James made a lot of good points that there's, different from my perspective, everybody has the stories that go on. I think that's the one thing in common is that we all have stories. They're not the same story, but they're stories. And I certainly had stories when I showed up to the rooms. I thought sex addicts would have like one hook for a hand and live under a bridge. So so that was a relief, even just to have dispel that, right? So but I can certainly appreciate any level of social anxiety. I had a lot of, but when I came in, there was no choice, right? There was no Zoom meeting. I didn't quite understand telemeetings, and I was super desperate. And so, but it was awkward. It was very awkward in the beginning. I think mostly I had stories about people judging me that made me afraid to come to meetings. And over time, so some of that might have been interesting to see if I had a choice back then, what might have been different. I did have a little bit, I was one of those ones that had a harder time with things being online because I am prone to distraction. And I'm just so used to kind of the in-person and the meeting after the meeting, which was something that we had established, and that definitely made coming back a lot more palatable. So I think whether we like it or not, we've discovered this new medium. It obviously appeals to a lot of people outside of just our geographic area. So I think that it's, even with us going back, a lot of, there's cause for that to continue, an opportunity for people to participate in that, which is awesome. We didn't have that before. We didn't have that kind of outreach before.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of keeps up with our traditions, right? Which is just, we're trying to reach the addict that needs it. So however that looks, whether it's traditionally sitting, next to people or whether it's on a Zoom call, the point is people feeling less isolated to me. And that's what's been helpful to me.
Yeah, we've had people that it's weird that different areas of the country have gone back to in-person meetings far earlier than California, and I just thought that was just fucking weird at the time. But we have quite a few million people here in the Bay Area living all next to each other, so it's good that we stayed out for as long as we did. But the virtues of Zoom, I just think of all the people suffering in areas of the country, areas of the world that they don't have the ability to access a meeting. There are no meetings close. We have one guy that comes in from the Middle East, and it's just, that is so amazing that this gift of technology, he would never have had the chance while he's living there to be face to face with us. So I'm grateful for that. Other things were different areas of the country, people have meetings near them, but it's 50 or 60 miles away where they'll have to drive to. And so having this technology, it really helped out for me when I was doing ISO work and trying to connect with meetings that were in California up near the Oregon border and stuff, and having this, I would have never driven to something like that, but with Zoom, I can just hit click. But one of the things, Tim and I, we've talked about, just like the stuff at the retreat and the meeting after the meeting, and just being able to hang out in the parking lot and shoot the shit for an hour, like after the meeting is over. We do that on Zoom. We do have that ability, but it's kind of different, as we can have one conversation just the meeting today, after the meeting was over, we had, I think, 3 different conversations going on, just a couple people over here, a couple people over there.
Wow.
And when we're on Zoom, there are a couple people that I want to chime in with this question I have, but we need to get to the newcomer over here. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I was been grateful to see, one guy showed up that I have not seen in 8 or 9 years. And he was resistant to join Zoom. He was waiting till everything came back face to face. And so I was grateful that he showed up. I am a physical person, and trying to search out people's level of comfort. There was one guy I knew was a hug person before the pandemic, and today I saw him for the first time, and we just greeted each other with this big embrace, and it was just awesome. One of my sponsees has talked about the thought of hugging someone makes him sick. And just how fearful he is of touch. And I love that we're respective of people's feelings. Are you okay with a hug? Are you okay with a fist bump? Just seeking out each other's level of comfort. And I think as we ease back into face-to-face, that we really, really need to pay attention to other people's feelings and thoughts. And, we may have to come up with things in our script to that effect, just to make sure that everyone feels comfortable.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's cool. I also think that, like, in fellowship, it is kind of weird how, like, on Zoom, like, I understand that the concept is, like, you go in the parking lot and then everybody has, like, side conversations and stuff. But, like, with Zoom, fellowship is literally, like, one guy asks questions and then gets advice from everybody, like, who takes turns, like, giving that one guy advice. And, like, I think that might not even be what that one guy wants even. You know what I mean? Like, he might just want to ask, like, somebody a question, or, like, I know that if I were in a parking lot after a meeting, I would probably, like you said, just, like, want to, shoot the breeze or whatever, not necessarily, like, ask a question and get a bunch of answers, like, especially if you go to meetings, like, every day, like, you don't need to do that. But
yeah, I remember hanging out in the parking lot from the Thursday night meeting with Tim for, like, another hour, where we're just talking about music and stuff. And it's a level of connection that we don't get in the meetings. And unfortunately, some of our evening meetings, people are Zoom fatigued. So I actually feel like meeting's over, everyone bails. What, James?
Yeah, I actually feel like the social aspect actually, I don't know. I probably sound like a fucking dickhead, like, just all this shit I've said, but, like, I think, like, misanthropic, like, fucking unpopular people like me need to have a place that, like, doesn't care. Like, we don't need to like you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can just come to this meeting, you can raise your hand, and you can speak your truth, and nobody can say shit. You know what I mean? And then, like, if you're cool, yeah, we'll talk to you in the parking lot after. If you're not cool, we're not going to talk to you. I can just close the application. You know what I mean? But I mean, you could also just, like, walk out or whatever. But, like, then I don't know, like, that might seem, like, dramatic or whatever. I just feel like there's so much less drama, like, when you're, like, the way. I don't want this to, like, turn into, like, a debate, right? Because, like, obviously, your
feelings, your thoughts are valid.
Well, it's not like we're voting here to, like, close one method, right? Like, obviously, both are going to happen, right? So, so basically, this is what I was thinking about this weekend, because we had first in-person meeting on Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Right. After Friday, I was. man, like, I don't know what the listeners are like going to think of me for saying this, but like, so I was really looking forward to the meeting, went to the meeting, hated it. And I was in such a freak out mode that I thought I was going to quit like SAA in general.
Yeah.
Like that was, I felt like I didn't fit in with anybody there. I felt like it was like, I don't know anybody here. Like, even though like I've been like for you, like I've been talking to you for months now, you know, and like other guys there I've been talking to for months now, but it was so weird for me to meet everybody in person. It was such a freak out for me that I was like, I can't do any of this anymore. You know what I mean? And then I had to talk to my sponsor about this because I was like, I felt guilty. I was like, I don't think I can go in the, like, I mentally thought I was going to go in person with everybody else. I was on that boat. I was like, oh, I'm like, you know, right next to the place where the in-person meetings happen. That's why I'm part of this group, right? Is because it's physically super close. So I was expecting to go back. And then I was like, well, now I don't think I can go back. So does that make me like, you know, a quitter or something, or what's going on about it? And I kind of talked to my sponsor about it, and he was like, you know, you just have to do whatever works for you.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm getting so much out of going through Zoom. I'm doing the steps, you know, I'm working on my 6th step right now. You know, my life has totally changed. My life is so much better in so many ways. Like, you know, I'm actually happy, or happier now than I used to be. And like, I didn't used to really be happy. Like, even when I was in my like player pickup days, which is just like acting out in like multiple, you know, in multiple ways. Like, I was acting out basically all day. My whole day was around acting out. My whole life was around acting out. Right. And I used to glorify that period of time. Like, I used to think that period of time was like my happy days. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was fucking depressed that whole time. And like, I remember being super depressed and needing therapy and shit, and it didn't really help. But like, now through like recovery and stuff, you know, I don't feel depressed anymore. I actually feel happy now, or happier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm getting that through Zoom. Like, I haven't had to go in person at all. And I was thinking about this, and just to loop it back around to what I was going to say, was like, you know, it's like, it's technology, right? It's a tool. Like, why do humans come up with tools? Why do we come up with technology? It's like, it's a different way of doing something. It's there for you to use it if you want. You can use it. You know what I mean? And I feel like right now, like what we're doing right now, like how much more convenient is it for us to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would we even be able to do this podcast if it wasn't for this tool? Like, it makes it so much easier, right? So I don't know. I just feel like it's assisted me so much. And like, yeah, if it didn't exist, then I guess I'd have to go in person. But I don't know. I'm going to try to not feel like uncool for not wanting to go in person or whatever.
Yeah. But it's all a level of comfort, whatever is comfortable for each person. I was going to say, I know a lot of people who are really wanting to have the connection of in person, but they are mentally not there yet. So there are a couple people that used to be there all the time, and I was expecting to see those faces there this week, but their level of comfort is not there yet. They're still sticking with Zoom, and you know, we got to each, you know, meet each other where we're at. So whatever's comfortable for each and every person, we have options, and that's, you know, just a brilliant thing.
I mean, I think of it this way. It's like, how many people have we reached through?
Oh God. Yeah.
How many people can it grow to? Like, you could have 100 people in a meeting with no space needed. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, you know, you can still ride horses and stuff, even though there's cars now, you know? Like, I mean, I get like in person it's probably the fucking shit. It's awesome. and I hope to get there one day with you guys, but I'm just saying that right now, like I was so fucked up by going that like I was like ready to quit the whole program. Like, I was in panic mode. Like, And that's my problem. That's my issues. It's not your issue. It's definitely
just thinking about that, Tim. I remember when you first joined, and your level of, you would stay through the meeting, but you did not connect with any of us. You, as soon as that meeting was over, you're boom out.
That's right, Jason. As soon as I was done crying, I left because I cried through like the first 5 meetings. I bailed right afterwards because my interpretation was, what happens at meetings a lot after the meetings is the people who know each other and haven't seen each other all week get together in groups. That's just the way it naturally happens. That's what I saw anyway. And so I wasn't part of that. And so I bailed. And what I'm grateful for is that there's no requirements in this program for anything social or otherwise. The requirement is for people who want to stop acting out, to want to stop acting out. That's really literally, I look through the traditions, I've done the homework. That's really the only kind of thing that is required, is a desire to stop the lifestyle that was fucking me up personally. That's why I did it. I wasn't coming for a social thing at all. I was coming because I thought I was going to lose my wife and children and kill myself. So yeah, over time, and that changed for me. I definitely, I was actually freaked out a lot about the anonymity thing. And sex addiction, which, now that I'm doing a podcast that's interesting. But I was really freaked out about running into people that I knew. I was freaked out about going to meetings where there might be women, because what women would think of a male sex addict would matter to me. So I was freaked out about about who might walk through that door a little bit more. But as I got to know a couple of people, that definitely changed. It was just an overtime thing, but in no way was there a requirement, or did I feel like any social pressure. I didn't really want people to run up and get me to stay in the beginning. I didn't really want that. I had to kind of be attracted back to it. And that's just my story. My story is then I ended up talking to a couple of people, and one thing led to another, and years went by, and doing service got me entwined in the group, right? Because then the next thing I'm setting up some chairs, I'm showing up earlier to a meeting. It just kind of it was an organic thing for me.
Yeah, I remember my first, God, I don't know how many months, my first meetings, as soon as the meeting was over.
That was the 70s, right?
It's in the disco days.
Yeah, it was a lot of bell bottoms. And
I used to leave there, and then I'd go to a store, a record store that also sold magazines, and mostly music magazines, but they also had adult magazines. So I would leave right after the meeting and go check out and see what magazines they had, and instead of trying to connect with other people. And so, just, straight from the meeting, go into act out. I didn't buy anything. Certainly wasn't masturbating at the store, but, I would get my hit because of how the I don't know if it was a level of awkwardness for me, but, I didn't have a connection with people. And it took a long while for me to get that, where I wanted to hang out afterwards and talk to somebody. And it was still another year or so that I started doing outer circle things with other people, going to a movie, going on a hike, going out to see music together and things like that. So those things develop over time. But yeah, go.
Nothing, just that thing, the part about wanting to act out after a meeting makes total sense to me, because a lot of energy is generated by connection. A lot of energy is generated by going to a meeting. If you're hearing stuff that I identify with and connect with, that connection, when I come from isolation and I enter in connection, there's energy. And as an addict, I am lousy at dealing with energy. I'm lousy at dealing with that type of thing in a productive way, right? So my acting out, it makes complete sense to me. The first retreat, we've carpooled to a number of retreats, but there's one or two where we haven't. And there was one that and this is like, 72 hours of pure recovery, floating on a cloud type stuff. I'm so connected to the world around me. I was like, I want to go act out. I want to go make an appointment. I want to do something with this. I did not, thankfully, that's grace, not control, but that was grace that nothing like that happened. But I completely understand being confronted with that, because I as a kid and soon after, I don't know what to do with this energy, these feelings, this type of change. So makes total sense to me why somebody would want to act out after a meeting.
Yeah. So, James, are you still going to the other noon meetings on Zoom?
Yeah. I can't help myself. I have to go every day.
Yeah.
I try to take a break sometimes, but I just end up going. I end up going anyway, man.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I have in this round through the steps, when we were on step 4, the first thing that jumped out on me for my fears list was fear of missing out. Right. And so we decided with these groups that we detached the in-person meetings from the Zoom meetings, rather than trying to figure out what we need to do for hybrid meetings, where we would have a screen or a device at the church, someone dialing into Zoom, so we're all still connected. So I love having the connection at the church, but while I'm there, it's like thinking about what's going on Zoom and all the people that I'm used to.
Good stuff, man. You're missing out. You missed out so much.
There was a
party.
Dude, it was really good. You missed it.
Yeah, there was a first step. I think one of the days I heard there was a first step that I missed, and it was like, bummed. But yeah, so I think about that. Today, I came back from the face-to-face meeting and thought about jumping on to see if anyone was still doing fellowship afterwards, but I got back to work too late to be able to do that. So those are things that I definitely have to deal with, because I miss seeing those people. But our face-to-face meetings are not every day of the week, so I have the other days of the week to be on Zoom. And a lot of us, some of us were there every single day, and other people, just depends on the day of the week whether or not they're able to join. So I still will be connecting with the Zoom group for sure. But today I definitely felt the connection at the church, but also was missing all my peeps on Zoom, and trying to figure out what to do with that energy.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
For the record, I read I listened and dropped the rock that some people, I'm quoting the book. It's not me. I'm not preaching here. It says some people think like meetings is the whole program, but actually meetings are a support group for the program.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Like I'm doing recovery at home 24/7. I'm working the steps. I'm calling my sponsor. I'm fucking praying to God when I think I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. And then I get to also go to a meeting and share my shit without any fucking crosstalk and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. James, you mentioned that at a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I took that and used it on the podcast. It's like someone said at a meeting today that meetings, I forget what the topic of the podcast was, but we were focused more on the steps, and that the meetings are there as a support for us working our step work.
That's
and
right.
when you mentioned that at the meeting, I was like, that is fucking brilliant. And it is so true.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. And it takes the pressure off too. Cause it's like,
Yeah.
it's not like, it's like, oh, I did bad in the meeting today or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it takes the pressure off. And this whole conversation of like, what do we like better? It's like, well, fucking cares. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get your vitamins in from here, you get your vitamins from there, you know?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. As long as the focus is on recovery. Right.
And for the record, you guys are still my homies or whatever. Like if I see you, I'm still going to be like, hey, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be like, oh no, it's in person. Like, that's not okay. Like, I'm still like happy to see you. Yeah. It's just, I just don't like being stuck in a chair because I'm hyperactive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need to move around and stretch my legs and stuff like that. I don't want to be a jerk and stand up in the middle of the meeting.
No, I'm with you. Those social pressures are it's so weird too, because nobody says anything, but there's some sort of understanding. Like you can't just get up and walk out, or at least for me, like I read that into it. And when I would show up to meetings, you know, if I would show up early, I would sit like, you know, I would have 2 spaces open, you know, and then fucking Jason would walk in and sit right next to me. Now that's actually, that's actually okay. But you know what I mean? It's like I would just, I definitely understand the personal space thing. And also just the different dynamic of having a year of solitude, you know, of things that are just so much different. To snap back to that makes me feel anxious. But sure.
You know, the weird thing is that I can do jujitsu without social distance and I'm okay. I don't know how you explain that. I think it's because I've always done jujitsu and it just opened up again recently. And so now it's like it picked up without a change. But sitting in a circle and talking with other guys, I don't know why, but like that just felt so like I feel so much more comfortable through Zoom. Like I feel like I feel like you guys can really get to know who I am, like, you know, or through the phone, like any sort of like, you know, and I think that if I had to do this in a meeting, like I would get the feeling like you wouldn't really get to know me as who I really am. Like my fear would be you would have an interpretation based on what's actually my anxiety.
Yeah.
Or disability or something.
Yeah. Valid point. When you were talking about doing the jujitsu and that feeling natural, I ran into levels of discomfort. You know, during this whole time, we've been ordering out food, and I go to pick up food and stuff, and I do shopping, and I'm okay being around people. When our county opened up a little bit more in terms of restaurants and being able to dine in, there was a family of 10 that arrived at the restaurant when I'm going to pick up my food. Where I pick up my food, everyone is, you know, they've got their little X's to stand on, so we're separate. And this family of 10, they're all clustered and they're getting close to me, and I freaked the fuck out. And it's like, I have been good with doing this thing of picking up food for the past 6 months or whatever. And then all of a sudden people start crowding in and I felt awkward. And that's going to be an adjustment that a lot of us will have to go through. When I went out to have lunch with one of my high school friends this past weekend, the restaurant where we were, I was talking about what their social distancing guidelines were, their mask requirements, where it's okay to not wear a mask, where it's okay, where you're required to have it. And he was telling me what's coming up next week, and they are going to occupy every table rather than keeping this table is okay, that table is X'd out. And so, I'm looking around the room. It's like, fuck, I don't know if mentally I'm okay with that yet. And it's something that I have to work through on my own. And I'm grateful that we have steps to be able to go over that kind of stuff and check in with other program people, making those phone calls. Hey, I just did this today and I'm feeling a little weird, and being able to check in with everyone.
Can I just say though that like, I think for me in my experience, it's super irrational why I on the street, like I'm like everybody else, like I keep social distance, I keep like super social distance and stuff. And I came to like really actually kind of like it. Like I actually feel like we're more respectful of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be such a fucking jerk that I would get into like little like pissing contests with random guys on the street, and we'd like shoulder check each other and shit. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like that, I was one of those guys. Okay. And so now that I have the excuse that I can just go completely off the sidewalk and not be anywhere close to the other guy, and it doesn't make me like, I don't want to curse, but it doesn't make me like less of a man.
Yeah. Because
I'm not like taking up the sidewalk and shit like that. And I got to fucking shoulder check you if you get in my way because I'm a real man. And, this type of stuff that happens between like macho idiots like me. So like, I don't have to do that anymore. I can get totally off the sidewalk and just like cross the street even because I feel uncomfortable. Because the true source of why I'm doing that is, by the way, because I'm scared and I'm uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And thank God for like the character defects, whatever spreadsheet. But anyway, so like, I think some of the good things about this pandemic is that like guys can now just totally get off the sidewalk, completely respect each other's space. And it doesn't make you like a bitch because you're like, oh, there, I said it. I didn't want to say it, but it doesn't make you.
I say that to Jason all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make you like less of a man because you're respecting other people's space, because we have this horrible, toxic subculture, I think, in our country where guys have to like, quote, be alpha, which means be a jerk to other people, because that's what makes you a man, is you have to be a jerk.
Yeah. So, I've been
sorry, that's totally off topic.
Yeah. At the retreat a couple of years ago, I talked about various topics that I want to cover on the podcast, and toxic masculinity is one of them. And hopefully we can delve into that at another time. But
if anything's toxic masculinity, it's that type of stuff that like guys not respecting each other on the street and having little pissing contests of space, turf wars and stuff. And I used to see other guys doing it too. Mm-hmm. Like back in my old workplace, and the sidewalk was really narrow too. So it's like they were they created the situation on purpose. And I would see guys like shoulder check each other and stuff. I'm like, what's up with that? Like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah, it's
I definitely, yes, I have that. And I've felt that way. I don't have 14 years of jujitsu behind me, so it's probably a miracle.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help. You still get the same. I'm not any less anxious or more confident or I'm the same. Don't believe the lies. It's marketing. They just want you to pay $200 a month.
Damn it. Because I told myself,
sorry,
I had some jujitsu behind me, but
it's still a fun hobby.
No, it's great, man. And listen, like like Jason, we both played music. I played in bands, and it's that same type of macho, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it might not be athleticism, but it's that same attitude of, this is a rich topic, Jason, by the way, like just of, trying
it's like male insecurity and turning outwards into competitiveness, which is hiding. I wish I was more like you, or you have something I don't have. You know, I would have this with bigger guys all the time. I'm like, God, I wish I was bigger. Like, fuck, this guy's bigger than me. And now I got to take up space and stuff to show him I'm not, you know what I mean? Which is so fucking stupid. But,
it's the same mentality with like playing like shred guitar or like being super technical or doing. I think it's probably the same thing with people trying to outsmart each other or be hyper intellectual and to show I'm more intellectual than you, or I'm more spiritual than you. You know, it's just like that whole thing, man.
Grandiosity.
I'm glad that you brought that up because it's such a rich topic, and I feel like it fuels so many people walking down the street, you know, like it. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So we'll definitely, cover aspects of that on a separate podcast, because we are running out of time.
Sure, man.
Today. But I at our step study meeting on Monday, I picked out grandiosity as a character defect, and I do the same shit at work where I've got to point myself out as being better than my other coworkers. And it comes from that same place. And I thought that I was over that, and then occasionally those things come back, and I'm grateful to have the steps to come back to and work through it. So as we're winding down here, is there anything else anyone wanted to cover before we close it out?
No, just grateful that you guys came to tonight. Thank you.
Super grateful. Thank you guys for inviting me here. I just wanted to talk with you guys. That's why I accepted it. I was like, I don't care about helping anybody else but myself, because I'm selfish. So what do I get out of it? It's like, I get to talk to Tim and Jason, which is a win for me. And
that's great.
Also, I guess maybe I help somebody. Probably more likely I'll piss somebody off listening to my insanity. But no, I just wanted to say that I do want to try in person again. So I'm not like anti in person. If anybody's listening is like afraid of it, don't be afraid of it.
Yeah. And I was going to say, when you are comfortable. So you've had, dip your toes in the water. If it's not comfortable, come back when again, check it out when you're feeling comfortable. And, just knowing how many people that used to be in person and that haven't been there this week, slowly but surely people are going to eventually trickle back. And, for myself, I'm hoping that I'll be doing half and half, on Zoom and in person. And now with this technology, I really love it. But I get something, a little bit of one thing from in person, a little bit of another thing on Zoom. I used to do in-person meetings. I'd have a small meeting and a big meeting, and I get different things out of those. With a small meeting, more intimacy. The big meetings, a lot of energy, and so mixing it up is perfectly fine. With that, grateful for you guys showing up here today and recording with us.
All right, man.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for Tim and James jumping on here on Zoom with me and talking about our experiences over this past week. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, that it may take some time before people are ready to be back at in-person meetings. So, like I mentioned, don't rush it, but if it feels right for you, it is amazing to be in the presence of other people again. I also did want to mention that James brought up a book that we're using in one of our meetings, our step study meetings, called Drop the Rock. It's not an official SAA book, but a lot of people do use it when working on steps. The Drop the Rock is basically about letting go of character defects. And so this is relevant for steps 6 and 7. And I will put the information about that book in the show notes. If you have any suggestions for topics that you would like to see covered on the podcast, if you are interested in being a guest or as part of a panel discussion such as tonight's conversation, you can always email me at jason@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com. To leave any feedback for the podcast, things that we talked about on this episode or any previous episodes, any music you would like to talk about that helps you in your recovery, please feel free to leave feedback for us at feedback@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in this week. And as always, keep coming back. The views and opinions contained in the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the Bay Area Intergroup or the ISO of SAA.